Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, the political dragon, Michael Voss, and I'm happy to be here with you today. It is August 3rd. It is approximately noon, and I want to talk to you about news that has happened that is going to change America forever. This isn't exaggeration. We're being very honest with you. America is changing before our eyes, and the major mainstream news media doesn't want to address what's going to be affecting you and your children and generations to come. We're going to explain exactly what we mean in just one moment, but first, we do want to mention to you that if this is the first time you're seeing our channel, we welcome you, we thank you for being part of our audience. We want you to know we do long-form political commentary, and every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out across all of the internet to hear your voices from anywhere in the world because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in your right to be able to speak about the issues that affect us all because the First Amendment isn't just an American principle, it is a right for everyone. So even if your country doesn't agree, even if the internet overlords don't like it, please join us every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so we can have that conversation. So what's been happening? Let's address this. We know that most people in America have been told that the most important thing that we should be focused on right now is Donald Trump, the latest indictment, one of a series of indictments, and likely to be part of even more indictments going forward throughout the 2024 presidential election cycle. That's the attention, that's where the media wants you to be focused. But there's a bigger issue. There's a more important issue that came out 2 days ago that we need to really focus on that didn't get attention. It's about the economy. It's about your life and the life of your children and future generations. It's going to change America. America is changing before our eyes, and because it could affect the 2024 presidential election, the news media doesn't want to talk about it. But we're going to. And we're going to try and make it as little math as necessary, but yet let you understand how important this is. So please, we hope you'll stay with us throughout the entire video. Over the last 2 days, the United States economy has taken a hit. We see that reflected in part in the stock market. All of the stock market is down at this time. And many people will say, well, the reason for that is because, well, the United Kingdom has admitted that they're going to keep their interest rates higher for longer than initially expected. The Bank of England has come out and said that they're looking at rates being at least 5.25%, if not higher, going forward. It's an indication that they say they've avoided the recession, even though they're looking at 18% inflation, and they're saying that everything's going to be fine, not to worry about it. Their economy is fine. The world economy is okay. We don't agree. We believe that that is an indication that we are in a recession and have been in a recession as classically defined since August of 2022. And we are continuing to see that move forward. It's more than a year. And this recession will last, we believe, until approximately 2025. Because that coincides with the food crisis, the global food crisis that is ongoing at this moment. And as we know, Russia has shut off all grain shipments throughout the world. They have shut off all of the fertilizer that would normally come from the Ukraine and is necessary around the world. There is 30% less food in the world as we speak. Most recently, Putin did say in South Africa that he will give some food to 4 nations in Africa, but that doesn't solve the food crisis. This is going to continue. And as bad as that is, and knowing that the Bank of England is telling us that we are going to be in this economic hardship for longer than initially expected, that really isn't the big news of the day. In fact, to find the big news of the day, we have to go backwards in time. We have to go to 2011. We did an article in 2011. It was actually July 26th of 2011. And we were talking about the fact that America has been taking money from one hand and shifting it to the other. Under the Obama administration, the United States was faced with the potential, as in July, the potential of being downgraded for the first time in its history, that our credit rating around the world would be reduced, that people couldn't be absolutely confident in America in paying its bills. In fact, at the time, we went through the definition of what is a AAA credit rating, and more importantly, we believe is what we think reflects the true credit rating of the United States, that the United States is less vulnerable in the near term than other lower rated obligors. However, it faces major ongoing uncertainties and exposure to adverse business, financial, or economic conditions which could lead the United States' inadequate capacity to meet its financial commitments. Does that sound accurate? Does that sound like the United States today, when we have abandoned 30,000 Americans in Afghanistan, Ukraine, and most recently in the Sudan? Does that sound like the United States that has an unclear position in Southeast Asia? So much so that Japan is now building up its own military for the first time since 1945. That South Korea is militarizing and becoming the fourth largest arms manufacturer in the world. That the Philippines and all of Southeast Asia are building up weapons. Australia is building submarines because they're expecting a conflict, and we believe that conflict could be as soon as the end of 2027 or somewhere in 2028. We hope to be wrong, but that's the way the world is gearing up right now. And the United States has instability, not just in our international politics, but in our domestic politics, where we are seeing people demonized for wanting to make America great, an inherently positive viewpoint that has now been demonized. We've been demonized for daring to say we have questions, that we don't believe the news media headlines, and we have seen consistently that those headlines change. We've been told over and over again that we are wrong to question experimental drug, only to find out 2 years later that the drug has side effects and that we should be asking questions. We've been told that laptops and documents that have been verified are false, only for 2 years later to be told that those documents are in fact valid and that they are real. We have lost our confidence, we have lost our way, and our political factions have become so divided, so entrenched, that there is no middle ground that can be seen. That's the reality of where we are at this moment, and that is instability. Instability that doesn't focus on our financial obligations. The United States has been kicking the can down the road consistently, before the Obama administration, of course, but most significantly since 2011 and going forward. And we see it again now under the Biden administration in much the same way as we did under the Obama administration. That we are told the economy is fine, the government will take care of all of our problems, and yet they don't. The problems persist and they have gotten worse. Well, let's get into this. And in 2011, we ended our article at the time with the statement, if America is singed by a downgrade and a reduction of spending with definitive plans on to pay down our debt, then it may well be worth it, because the alternative is being burned by the debt we fail to control. Over a decade later, that still remains the truth. America didn't learn its lesson. We continue to spend more than we make, and significantly, we are outspending ourselves. As we can see currently, we have $32.7 trillion that we have spent, even though we bring in $4.7 trillion a year. We are spending $1.6 trillion in debt every year. These numbers were unheard of just a few years ago. And yet this is the norm and looking to go higher. We're spending 119% of our GDP. These are unsustainable numbers. We cannot continue to spend at this rate and be considered fiscally solid. We promised that we would try and stay away from the numbers as much as we could, but we have to make this emphasis for you because this will affect not just you, but your kids and the kids they have. Generations will be affected by what we are doing today. Just like we saw in 2011, the Obama administration did get the first downgrade of the United States credit in its entire history. And now the Biden administration has done the same thing for the same exact reasons. The things that were happening in 2011 are only happening faster and bigger and more in 2023. And we have no reason to believe it will not continue. In 2011, when the United States economy was hit, when we lost our AAA credit rating with S&P, there are three major credit rating agencies, S&P, Moody's, and Fitch. And in 2011, S&P said that the United States was unreliable and our fiscal policy unsound. They said exactly, we have lowered our long-term sovereign credit rating of the United States to AA from AAA. The downgrade reflects our view that the effectiveness, stability, and predictability of American policymaking and policy institutions have weakened at a time of ongoing fiscal and economic challenges to a degree more than we envisioned when we assigned a negative outlook in April of 2011. The ratings agency put forth a blistering view of Washington partisanship, adding, we have changed our views of the difficulties in bringing the gulf between the political parties over fiscal policy. Doesn't that sound like 2023? Think about it. Right now, the divide between Republicans and Democrats is one of the largest we have ever seen, and it is entrenched. Nobody wants to move from their positions. And we have the left that is continuing to push even further left as we are having this discussion. We are seeing the growth of the Democratic Socialists of America. They are gaining more positions. The progressives have gained, Hakeem Jeffries has taken over for Nancy Pelosi in the leadership of the Democratic Party in Congress. We are seeing a push further and further to the left that is dividing America and harming our economic future. But that was the downgrade that we saw in 2011. What has happened now? Under the Biden-Harris administration, the United States is in, we believe, a recession since August of 2022. That's the classic definition of a recession, and we have not changed that position. Interest rates are up, and inflation is up. Food inflation is up 12% in the United States, 18% in the United Kingdom. We have energy inflation that is up approximately 12% from February of 2021. We are spending more money than we have ever spent before consistently, and we're not getting things fixed or done. America transitioned under the Obama administration. We transitioned from being a manufacturing economy to a service economy, thus making us more dependent on foreign goods. Why does this matter to you? Let me explain this. Our allies don't trust us. We already know that. Southeast Asia is militarizing because they don't trust the Biden-Harris administration to protect them under the treaties that already exist. We see this right now. That's not a question. Iran and Russia and North Korea and China have seen the weakness, the retreat from Afghanistan, the abandoning of Americans throughout the world, and they have taken that as a reason to become more aggressive. So militarily, the United States is looked at as weak. Our allies don't have faith in us. Even France most recently said, President Macron said that Europe needs to become more aligned with China and cut ties with America, even as we are deeply involved in the proxy war in Ukraine versus Russia. This is a long-term problem for the United States. And our allies who don't have military confidence in us also don't have economic confidence in us, because we have been consistently kicking the can down the road. You can go before Obama, but most significantly from the Obama administration to today with the Biden administration, we are trying to get past the next election. All of our economic policy leads us to the next election that leads us to the next election. We're trying to go from presidential to midterm to presidential. We're not fixing the problems. We haven't resolved anything. Look at our budget. Look at the budget fixes that we're going through. We just went through the budget agreement that will allow the United States to increase its inflation by 7.5% to bring us to January 2025. And that's why countries do not have confidence. And just like what S&P said in 2011, we're now seeing Fitch say in 2023. In Fitch's view, there has been a steady deterioration in standards of governance over the past 20 years, including on fiscal and debt matters, notwithstanding the June bipartisan agreement to suspend the debt limit until January 2025. Think about that. They also said that the rating downgrade of the United States reflects the expected fiscal deterioration over the next 3 years, a high and growing general government debt burden, and the erosion of governance relative to peers. The United States is going to be in a worse shape politically, financially, internationally, and domestically than where we are right now within the next 3 years. This is the recession that we have been talking about for the last year. It's going to continue, and it's going to get worse. Fitch sees it, S&P saw it, Moody's likely sees it too, and they're going to move. Now, let's stop for a second here. Again, we don't want to bog down in the numbers for you. I want you to understand the emotion, the impact of this. When the rest of the world is less confident in the United States, they're using the dollar less. They are looking for alternatives around the world. They're looking for confidence and leadership, and they're not getting it under the Biden-Harris administration. They're not getting it from the United States or our Congress, and therefore they're going other places. What does that mean to you? It means that everything you buy will cost more. Again, we no longer manufacture in the United States. We're a service economy. Thank you, Obama. And that means everyone else is making the stuff we need, from food to clothing to widgets, everything. And that means it becomes more expensive the less other countries trust us, the less they want to use the dollar. Inflation increases at a higher pace than what generations, decades of Americans have lived through. We have never seen this before. And it's important because 2 of the 3 major ratings companies around the world have all downgraded America. They see a vortex, a downward spiral of the United States, and that brings us closer and closer to becoming a banana republic. Because if the world doesn't trust the dollar, there's nothing to support the dollar. It becomes like a cryptocurrency, where once the confidence is gone, the price disappears. The value is evaporated. And that's why this is important. Because the poor will become massively more poor. We will become closer to second and third world nations than the first world leader of the first world nations that we have been for generations. This is a very serious and big thing. And the major news media did not want to address this. Let me show you. The ratings agency, Fitch, pointed the repeated debt limit, political standoffs, and last-minute resolutions The world has recognized we continue to kick the can down the road to just get past the next election. We're constantly, all of our politics in America at this time is being pushed towards get past the next election. That's it. Everything is focused on that. And at the same time, we're hearing things like the dark branding is good, that Bidenomics is a good thing. Bidenomics is now being touted as a good thing, and you just don't understand. Meanwhile, since February of 2021, food inflation is up 17%. We have electricity and energy costs are up 12% since February of 2021. That's a good thing. That's what we're being told. That's what Joe Biden is running around America right now telling you. What we're hearing from the press secretary of the United States, that we're hearing from various Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Chuck Schumer, candidates like Josh Riley. They're telling you everything's fantastic and you just don't understand as you spend more and more on all of your bills. You see it when you go to the store. You know things are getting worse. And they're telling you it's all great. And by the way, remember to keep voting the same exact way. Don't change anything. Re-elect all the people you elected last time because they're going to get you to the next election. They promise they're going to fix it at some point in the future without ever having a solution. Fitch has seen this, S&P has seen this, the world is seeing this, and it cannot continue. It cannot continue because, as we showed you, we're spending 119% of our GDP. It is unsustainable. Why is this such a big deal? So things will be more expensive, which means the poor people will become more poor. The middle class will shrink ever more so. And some would say the middle class doesn't exist anymore. We believe it does, but they are shrinking. They are being hurt, and this will continue. It will be harder to buy houses. It will be harder to buy cars. It will be harder to get out of debt. Student loans aren't the problem. The economic policies are the problem, just as our military policies and our interest in American citizens has diminished. So this goes too. One of the biggest parts of the problem with this is that China has recognized the weakness and the long-term failure in our economic plans as well as our military plans. In terms of military, we see that China is building up the largest navy in the world as America is shrinking its navy. We see that China has threatened Taiwan, that they are at some point absolutely going to physically attack Taiwan and take it over. They've already promised this. They've told the entire world they are going to do this. Japan is terrified. South Korea is terrified. The world is terrified. But it's not just military. China has also been making business deals for resources, economic deals around the world to replace the United States dollar. We've seen this in Africa. Not only did China go into Africa in the 2000s under the Obama administration and make deals for all of the heavy metal resources we need for renewable energy, they made these deals and they invested into these nations so that these nations would use the Chinese yuan, their dollar, the Chinese yuan, instead of the American dollar. We've seen this. This is from 2014 under the Obama administration. Chinese yuan penetrates African markets. This is when they were going into Zimbabwe and South Africa. We see that this has been a long-term plan. They've been working on taking over the resources that America needs, that the world needs, and they're all tied to China now. And China has been influencing these nations to use their money instead of the United States dollar, making things more expensive in America, hurting us and our allies. That was in 2014, but it didn't stop. Because if we see now, In 2023, this is from Business Insider, July 31st of 2023, China's yuan expands its growing foothold in South America as Bolivia reduces reliance on the US dollar. And it's not just Bolivia, it's also Argentina, it's also in Brazil. So we're seeing Africa, we're seeing South America are all becoming more and more aligned with China and the Chinese yuan than US dollar. This is a long-term problem. Again, in 2023, NPR asked the following question. The US dollar conquered the world. That was 80 years ago. Is it at risk of losing its top spot? That was June of 2023, before the second downgrade of the United States credit rating. The confidence of the world in the United States economically, even as the world is losing its confidence in America militarily. And in this article, in part, and we believe this is important, China has been pushing to have its currency replace the dollar, but it's been getting momentum now for a couple of reasons. The number one reason being the debt ceiling, as an example. Being the currency everyone counts on to do business means people have to believe that your currency is reliable. That recent debt ceiling drama made the US, and by extension the dollar, look potentially risky and unstable. From the Obama administration through the Biden administration, we are seeing a consistency here. The United States is losing its credibility. And that is, in turn, making our economy weaker and making it more difficult for Americans to live the quality of life that generations have been accustomed to and assumed would never change. But it is changing, and it is changing quickly. And this means that not just for you, but for your children and their children going forward, everything will be more expensive. It will be more difficult to get. Because the United States isn't a manufacturing nation. We're a service nation. We're dependent on others. And our money is only worth something if they have faith in it, because we spend more than we make. We are on the cusp of becoming a banana republic. Those who have been alive long enough remember the 1980s, the early 1990s, when that term was coined and why it was coined. Rampant inflation that crushed several nations and destroyed lives for generations. That's what we're looking at here. The stock market started falling apart 2 days ago because no one trusts the American economy going forward. They don't trust Bidenomics. It isn't working. No matter how many ads and how many slogans and how much CNBC and MSNBC try to prop up the Biden-Harris administration so that you'll vote Democrat in 2024, it isn't working. It isn't getting better. And they don't want to tell you this because you might change your vote, which is the problem in the first place. We're doing politics to get through the next election to keep people in power who didn't have the solution in the first place. In fact, we're re-electing people who made the problem worse over and over again. I know it's been economics. I know it's numbers and trying to understand the math. We have to do it. You do it every day as you pay your bills and you pay your debt and you live your life. And we need to hold the American government accountable to do the same thing, to have at least the same level of predictability and understanding of consequences as the average American citizen. Moody's, the third company, is on the horizon. They will downgrade the United States. That will happen. It is only a matter of time now. In 2011, Obama promised you that it would just take a couple of years and we would get back to a AAA rating. That didn't happen. Janet Yellen today is telling you that that the credit companies don't understand the risk, that they're just being political, that you should just ignore it because it's not important. Exactly what we were told in 2011. Do you want to just blindly affirm and believe what Janet Yellen is saying? Do you want to just blindly accept Bidenomics and think that it's doing well because they say so? No one else in the world accepts that. But perhaps you think we're wrong. Perhaps the analysis that we have looked at in looking at 2011 and comparing that to 2023, looking at the downgrades, maybe you think Moody's will make a different decision. Maybe you think the other credit agencies will reverse their position and increase America's credit rating, increasing the confidence in our nation. If you do, we'd like to know why. But we also hope that you'll join us this Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to share your thoughts on this and all the issues that are affecting us all around the world. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, admitted he has not read the Arizona immigration law. I know it is a difficult task to stand up in front of our peers and say to Congress and say that Congress has failed to listen to voters.
You here at CPAC said yes to President Donald Trump in 2016, and I know you're going to say yes to.
She was very aware that she had the flag in her hands and that the flag was dragging on the ground. That is an intentional action. She knows what she is doing. She then drops the flag. Understand the logic, and we see this in social media on a regular basis, and it's something that Newsweek decided not to tell you about. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, a representative in Congress who is writing laws to deny American citizens their rights, has no idea what she's talking about. And they are against the vaccine mandate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you support that?
Last time I checked, there were not a lot of planes crashing into each other at airports, right? You can meet a very, very stringent accuracy rate when it's important, when it matters, like in federal elections.
The quote from Joe Biden where he is admitting that he is willing to lie to the American people.